I logged over 500 hours on my Satisfactory 1.0 save, and I want to show you all the cool things that we have built so far, like the rocket fuel factory, but we'll get to that a little later. I spent the first 15 to 20 hours finishing phase 1 and phase 2, and I really wasn't trying to make anything look very good, but rather get all the basic buildings and components unlocked that I wanted to for my starter factory. And real quick, I'll show you what my starter area looked like, because it was kind of a mess. And after collecting all the coupons I would need to unlock all the buildables that I wanted to use, which was maybe one of the most important objectives early game that I had for myself, I was finally able to build my starter factory. And this right here is the first real factory that we made. We finished this around the 100-hour mark, so it took about 80 hours to finish, and it mostly uses blueprints. I have a whole video on this factory specifically, but coming inside, we have a storage room down here, and we have multiple levels of production that all are pretty similar. They all use very much the same design, just with different production buildings like constructors and then smelters. We have assemblers and foundries in here as well. But something cool about this specific building is that these blueprints have a buildable in them that is kind of a little secret one. There's this little hole thing that you guys might notice, and I can grab this out and build it. And they still haven't patched this, so I don't know if they will, but how you get this is by taking a either large or small billboard and placing it on the ground. You'll get the pole like this, and then what you can do is highlight them. You can see the difference here. There's a pole and then there's the actual board. The pole for some reason is allowed to be selected, so you can middle mouse click on it to sample the pole and actually just get the pole. Fair warning, you can crash your game by doing this. If you try to press or hold E, which is normally a cycle option, so you can hold E to get a radial, or you can press E to cycle through items on the same buildable plane. If you try to do that with this, you will crash your game, so please do not do that unless you want to. I don't know. But back to the factory. There's definitely some work in progress stuff that's not done, like this elevator area that's not done. I definitely at this point needed some power, so we immediately pivoted to making a proper fuel source, as we were still running on some coal power, which was a little ambitious for the level in which we were building at. But almost every floor is the same. They all have production modules, walkway areas, and all that stuff. But I was definitely really happy with this when we made it. If I go up to the next floor, we actually have a balcony area because the moth wants to fly directly through the building. So we cut out this area of the building, and this is where I would just put my hub, and I put a power augmenter at the very top of the building as well for the power boost. But this is about it. Oh, and we can actually see the moth come right through here as well. This guy will come right through here, and he won't clip through anything. Just barely misses everything. It took me a good little bit to kind of shave this down to wherever he would fly through, but out of his multiple different animations right around here, because one of them he'll flap his wings down right as he comes through here, and he still does not clip. And each production floor has its own logistic floor like this, which is quite tall and maybe a little too tall, but it definitely gives us enough space to move all our stuff around. And the corner elevator definitely gets a little bit busy with all of the variety of items, but we made it work. And there's still, again, plenty of room, honestly. Maybe a bit too much, but hey, I'd rather have a little bit too much space than definitely not enough. And then all of the excess items do get sunk. Now, I don't think I have access to the logistic floor down below here, but basically behind these, we have dimensional depots as well. So you have a line like this that has dimensional depots with smart splitting and all that jazz. And then this line, ironically, goes right through, and you can see it from inside there, into a sink that is right down here. And there's a couple other sinks in the building that we use just like this. But yeah, this is the starter factory, and this thing honestly has supplied all of our production, including our rocket fuel factory for the most part. The only thing that it couldn't really hold up against was doing our highway, which we needed thousands of concrete, plates, and quartz crystal per minute, and obviously this thing does not produce that. So we did have to make some temporary production and upload them to the dimensional depot, but outside that, it was pretty solid and has done wonders. It's lasted a lot longer than I thought it would, honestly. And I've been pretty happy with it. And I also really like this staircase. This is one of my favorite parts about the starter factory, is this staircase area and the color scheme of like blue and orange, which is, as you'll see, pretty consistent throughout the save. We've been using a lot of the coated copper, or I should say coated concrete foundations with copper on them. And then the orange and blue color scheme is also pretty common. So the next factory on the list is our packaged diluted fuel plant, which is just over in the blue crater. And here we have the packaged fuel plant. Now this is the first time I've ever done a packaged fuel plant. I've always skipped packaged diluted fuel and gone straight to blended fuel or something like that. I just never really wanted to deal with it, but I decided as it's 1.0 and I've never done it, I figured it would be a good challenge. And there definitely are some hiccups within this build, but overall it was definitely a good build. Basically, we have down here water extractors that pull water into packagers down there, which we will go down there in a little bit. And they package the water and send it up through an elevator into our refining area, which basically combines it and eventually pops out fuel and unpacks that fuel and sends it to the generators right here, which is 80 generators. So this thing does, I think, 20,000 megawatts-ish, just slightly under, I think. And the canisters get looped back down. So that was the whole idea, and we did pretty much all the production first, I think, and then we did the designing, which is the case for a lot of my builds. I like to do production and then designing, but there are times where I kind of jump back and forth. It really just depends on the build, but we have, I guess, a MAM here and these things. I don't know who put those there, but yeah, there are a couple different experimentation designs that I did on this build, and one of them is using these pipe floor holes and just pipes in general as a design, and I definitely like doing that. Another thing you'll notice is that there's no floor holes on these, and that's because I was having a lot of issues with flow, partially due to floor holes, but some other issues as well. And I put the space elevator here because I just didn't have a place for this thing to go, and I was like, I gotta fill this space. So we put it here, because why not? But we have a few different hallways here, and this one does the the packing of fuel. So this one actually makes the diluted packaged fuel. This hallway's pretty fun. A little bit of a different design style than I normally do, but I think it works pretty well. And again, you'll notice that we have the blue and orange. It's a very common theme on the save now. This hallway is similar yet different. We have these blueprints here that basically snap all of these pillars in here, and the refineries themselves are not blueprinted, just these things right here. This is one of my favorite things about this hallway, is this little light. So originally, when I was making this factory, for some reason the lights on the refineries were not turning on, and it was really bugging me, and I think it was just a bug in the game, and I really wanted this part of the reason why this whole design is here is because this light is from the refinery, and I wanted it to show. Whether it gave off any light, that didn't really matter. I just wanted this like light beam to be here. That was a big part of it. And to get that, I had to make a blueprint that somehow had the 4-meter sign, label sign, at the right depth for me to actually nudge it in. It was really annoying to do. It took multiple hours to get to the right spacing, but I finally managed to get a sign that clipped into these guys. And again, this is when the light was not working. I think now they do. I haven't had any issues since that I've seen, but it was quite annoying, and it may not have been worth the time. It might have just been better to wait. So there are a bunch of signs clipped into here as well, but little fun fact for you guys. And then this third hallway is just a little outer hallway because it has this balcony access here. We have a walkway on the outside like this, and we have a buffer. So this is where oil comes in, which is not really designed at all back here. I never really got around to it, I guess. But our oil gets pumped up right here up into a buffer at the top and gravity fed into the refineries that are behind this wall. And even by doing that, it still has some issues, which is quite annoying. Jumping down to the packager side, there's still some unfinished stuff down here, but for some reason I did white and pink on this. I don't know why, but I did. It's a little weird. There's a lot of white going on down here. But these are the packagers, just packaging oil and water. So we're packaging water, and then there's still a lot of unfinished buildables over here. But it just gets sent up here. So we have 4 lanes of packaged water and 4 lanes of canisters. They're all 400 each, and they get load balanced on 2 different areas just to make sure there's no overflow issues. Pretty darn easy. And then we have a window looking out over this as well, like we could see from the bird's eye. And then this right here, which is not set up yet, will be for the resin to refine it into plastic rubber so we can actually make a little bit of computer stuff. A very small amount, but we will be able to make some and actually place more coated foundations. But that is about it. And this factory is, a lot of the factory is the generators, honestly. A lot of the footprint is the generators and then just a bunch of refineries. But I think one of my favorite parts of this factory is honestly just the walkway area down at the water extractors. I don't get why, but I always like having the ability to like walk around the water extractors and have like these lanes for them. I don't know why. It always just looks cool to me. Now, before I show the rocket fuel plant and the highway that leads to that, I just want to show you real quick. We have a small little temporary factory making heavy modular frames and a few electronics per minute, and that's like computers, circuit boards, and high-speed connectors. And that's what this little one next to our starter factory is, that will be taken down once we make our actual electronics factory. But I needed this so I could actually make my highway with all the signals and stuff. Around the world, there are a few different spots like this where I have a material pickup like this train station right here next to our highway that don't have the whole train station treatment. I pretty much need to add foundations and some railings to this whole thing. And I think there's like 3 spots on the save that need this fix up, and they're mostly related to the rocket fuel plant. But if you guys haven't seen our highway, this is what it looks like with the supports kind of around it, and they don't technically touch, but looking back, it does look like they kind of are supported. And I do have 2 separate videos talking about how I made this blueprint and how I do my curves to make nice big curves that line up on world grid all the time. And this is how the highway looks when I have kind of 2 foundation sets on each side leading to either a train station here or let's say generators like this over here. Most of the time though, it'll be like a factory on one side, factory on the other side, or train stations on both sides. But I really like the way this kind of dips down, and it feels like the highway's kind of cutting through. But yeah, this is the rocket fuel plant. You guys may have seen the showcase video for this build. We got little trains coming out on this side. There is 4 materials being imported into this specific factory: coal, sulfur, packaged oil, and the nitrogen gas from right over there. All 3 other ones are being imported from the blue crater, or exported from the blue crater, and brought here. And this is a little part of the joy of the save. Definitely my favorite factory on the save. It took about 100 hours, a little less I believe, but if I include all of the small little detailing that I probably still have to do, there's a ton of different like touch-up stuff that I could spend hours on for sure. It would definitely hit 100 hours, if not more. This is one of my favorite builds I've ever done, and it produces a pretty good amount of power. If we go look at this, you can see our power production, 74,000 megawatts, pretty solid. And there's a couple generators, and actually some of these are overclocked, so this would be a few, there would be a few more generators here, but I think like the last 3 or 6 of these are overclocked maybe? I don't remember. Oh, it's these guys on the inside. These guys on the inside, there's some that are overclocked. Yeah, it looks like the first 3 in each line. That makes sense. But again, if you haven't seen on the inside, this is one of my favorite blueprints we made, the blender blueprints. And I should be able to go to the hallway that has kind of the mirrored look, where I can, yeah, like down here. So we go over here. There's the hallway of the blenders. One of my favorite blueprint sets we've made for sure. And honestly, one of them, I think the highest requested for the blueprint build guides for members only. And I believe that blueprint only took about 5 hours to make, or a little less actually. I think less than 5 hours. And then my favorite refinery blueprint that we've made is this one right here. Definitely my favorite refinery blueprints. Most complex, but also most expensive for sure. If I had to place like, you know, hundreds of these refineries, this would kind of suck because there's a variety of materials that we're using and it's just like expensive. But this is the refining area, and this is for like the oil into heavy oil residue, and then the heavy oil residue just gets put into the blender. So it's pretty simple for rocket fuel. Like this alternate recipe for rocket fuel is pretty darn simple, but it is super effective. You can get tons of rocket fuel, and we're making 2,400, so you can get tons of it, and just put it into some generators. Feel free to go check out the full build showcase. We're going to move on to the next builds on the save, and that is going to be all work in progress stuff. There's not really anything completed after this, I don't think, because this is where the project starts to get a little bit larger and take a lot more time. So this is over by the Dune Desert in the very north side here, right up at the top of the map. And this is a pile of train stations. Now this is to actually export materials from the Dune Desert out, because the material factory that we will have over here is not going to consume every resource in the Dune Desert. Now it is going to make a lot of different things. We're going to be making thousands of items per minute for upload speed into dimensional depots, but even that doesn't use all of the resources there. So I want to build this train station to export all that stuff out to other locations, other areas of the map that are not as resource dense, but we might want to build in. So I have all these train stations set up, and this may or may not be enough. We'll find that out later, but we can always add more. and that is for sure. But as you can see, work in progress. I just started to lay down this foundation side here, but I still have the rest of the foundation side to do. But it leaves plenty of room for logistics down below, which is very nice, and it interfaces quite well with our highway. And this area will be quite congested, I believe. So what I'm going to have to do is add some extra lane modules, and we're probably going to end up stacking another highway on top of this. And that I'm really hoping happens after they add waypoint signaling. Whether or not they actually do, I don't know, but I really hope they add the ability to put a signal on a track to tell a train to go to that signal, so you can actually manually path a train line and kind of make trains be a little bit smarter, because as of right now they always take the shortest path. So having multiple options to relieve congestion doesn't actually work. You would need to add a train station into those highway lines to then tell that train to go there, and it's a whole thing, and it's not really practical, it doesn't really work. So I really hope they add train waypointing. It would make them a little bit OP, but for the people who want to use a lot of trains for whatever reason, kind of like me, well, it would help a lot. And this is, again, one of those train stations that's just a little off of the highway. This one's going to be picking up limestone, which actually has a train line running just to another train station randomly in the world that's sinking all this stuff. But eventually we're going to do a concrete factory in the rocky desert, I believe. And this is kind of the pre-setup for that. I just did it out of just to get it out of the way. But yeah, that's what this is. And I wanted more trains on the highway, so this was an excuse to do that. But right down the highway here, we have the start of our canister factory. Now this factory will eventually be making just over 10,000 canisters per minute. That might seem like way too much, and it may be way too much, but I really want to utilize trucks on this save. For some reason, I just do. And to do that, we need fuel. Now, I think 10,000 packaged fuel per minute may be a little high, but we also want to use packaged water. It makes transporting water a little easier, and we can build factories that need a lot of water in areas we normally wouldn't, where there is no water. So having all of the canisters available to saturate both those lines and can be consumed in packaged fuel or packaged turbo fuel or something like that is quite useful. And it's really not that much raw resource input. It's only a few thousand different materials like copper and iron, but it really just is a lot of building, but very much a work in progress. I believe this height is the last production floor, but I don't know how big this thing will get eventually. And then we will end up, probably before this is finished, start working on the packaged water factory, just so we can kind of figure out how they're going to communicate and work together. But again, when I start placing down these foundations here on the other side, it kind of gets that look of like this highway's cutting through. It's really fun, and I really like it. And I don't have any builds on the center of the map where all the aluminum stuff is. I have some literally a temporary constructor, just making a couple aluminum pieces per minute, and I just go throw some copper up there manually whenever I need for these sheets. And you can see that highway support doesn't really work super well over the void, which is I will be making another support that'll basically add on to this and kind of oh hey, we're dying, and kind of figure out how to make this look pretty good, because over the void is a little tough. But that is about it. 500 hours. There's definitely stuff I haven't shown that, you know, you want some time here and there, like Fixmas stuff and whatnot. But that is my save so far. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and if you liked any of the builds you saw, everything is pretty much on YouTube up to the rocket fuel plant. All the work in progress stuff after that, I don't have any showcase for, obviously, because they're not done, but everything is live streamed. So on Twitch, I don't play this save really off stream at all, unless I'm recording something. And I try to multi-stream every time that I can, although there have been some times where I have not multi-streamed. But if you want to see this thing built live and see the current state of the save, feel free to check out the streams either on here, YouTube, or on Twitch. We have a good amount of people on Twitch that like to tune in. It's a bit more interactive, so if that's your thing, feel free to stop by. But I'm going to stop yapping. I think that's it for me. Hopefully you have a good rest of your morning, evening, afternoon, and until next time, peace.
I'm slick with words, tongue sharp, you left in thirds. You pitching verbs, I knock it out, I'm flipping birds. While smoking herbs, I'm blocking out what often hurts. I'm moving herds, it's me, my family, money merge.